Is it there?
I've hit record. Normally a thing comes up that's like, hey, you have permission to record. I missed that because you were so
I was
on
with
the
it.
ball
I was fast.
and I was so not.
Nope.
Not on the ball.
Nope.
All right. Yeah, it's going to be great.
Oh, it's going to be good.
It's going to be great.
Just gonna double check that. Okay, here we go. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of True Crime and Cocktails, Famous Fatalities Edition. As always, I am your host, Lauren Ash, and as always, I am joined by my co-hostess with the mostess, Christy Oxborough. How you feeling?
I mean, I was worried I wasn't going to have the time to properly research this one because I mean, this week we recorded, I think last Sunday because something happened that we got pushed back.
Yeah.
And then Monday is when we got the cases for True Crime Daily that we got to be on.
Yes.
So then it was 2 days of like binging through that online. So I had to put a pin in this case and then I had to like quickly get right back into it. And I don't know if the people know, but like knock, knock, peek behind the camera. Behind the camera. Fuck. I was trying to say curtain. I think I'm already quite buzzed. My drink is very very heavy. But a little peek behind the curtain is we are like multiple weeks ahead of where people think we actually are.
Yes.
Like where we're standing right now, everyone's getting ready for Princess Diana. That one hasn't even dropped yet.
That's right.
So like we have to be in advance, so there's time for editing and all of that stuff. So it just feels like there's never any time.
And you sound like Jesse Spano from a very famous scene in Saved by the Bell. There's no time. There's never any time. If you're getting into caffeine pills, I need to know now, is all I'm going to say.
I'll share, I promise. I even I referenced that the other day to my husband and was like, you know, that thing with Jesse Spano. And he was like, yeah. I'm like, I get why she did it.
Oh no.
It's just a lot. But today I ended up being done a little bit early.
Hey.
And so I was very excited. I'm like, I have an hour. What do I do? I'm like, I can either just watch like a show that I've got building up. Lord knows I've got them building up. Or I could start on the documentary for the episode I'm going to start researching tomorrow. I'm like, no, give yourself a break. So I had been given Lego Harry Potter for Xbox, I believe for my birthday. And today I finally got to crack it. And my birthday was about 5 months ago.
Yeah.
And so I started playing that. And then I got a little like, you know what? I could get 2 levels in. Well, dear listeners, no, I couldn't. So I looked and I had 5 minutes. So I had to quickly like have my husband take over for me so that I could run and get ready. And then I got just a scotch heavy-handed with the alcohol in my drink. And there's multiple alcohols in them today.
Well, I need to hear about that.
Something new.
What you drinking over there?
Well, we did recently do the boozy brunch on Patreon.
Yes.
It was a lovely time.
I'm
so sorry I got so hammered so fast.
I don't think you need to apologize.
It was a great time. It was a safe space. You're among friends. And it was the one time I was like, I'm really going to cut loose. And I did. And so I did a Blue Hawaiian that day and I loved it. And guess what? Blue Hawaiian is back, but I may have put just a scotch too much rum in it. So, you know, rum, vodka, blue curacao, it takes up about half that cup.
Well, what I like is that you've got a nice boozy flush going and we're 3 minutes into this episode. It bodes well for everyone. Now, for those wondering what Patreon is, go to patreon.com/true crime and cocktails to learn all about it. It's a subscription series and we do lots of fun things, including a monthly live Q&A. It's called, a boozy brunch with your besties, which is what Christy is referring to. So check it out. Learn some more. You might be interested in joining us on there. Now, in terms of what I'm drinking, I'm a fancy bitch tonight because I've brought out the pink Chandon in a champagne flute. I was gonna just put it in like a goblet, but then I was like, no, you drink it slower if it's in a champagne flute, because I don't need to be too slurry too quickly. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, I do want to point out you haven't been slurry in a while. I'm an enabler.
And that's what I like about you. And we're
Yeah.
both enablers. It's kind of what we do.
Yeah.
It's why I think this works.
Yeah.
Some people say supportive instead of
Yes.
enabling, you
Yes.
know?
I also love the class level of that champagne flute versus the class level of this. Like, she likes her drinks cold because when they get too warm, just not a fan.
It's a turnoff for you. I know. Well, I'm also wearing a
is.
terry cloth scrunchie with a bow. So I don't know if I would be talking about class coming from this side of the computer screen, but I thank you for that. Now, of course, today's episode, we are talking about the Dateline mini series. I guess we could call it limited series. I don't know what we're talking. Three-parter. How about that? The Dateline three-parter,
Yeah.
The Widower, which I am so excited about. Now I've been putting on the hat lately of just seeking out what people are messaging us about, because we get a lot of people, a lot of you, dear listeners, send us suggestions of cases and things to watch. And so while Christy's in the thick of it, I've started just trying to devour as much content as I can, so I can say, this one I think we need to move up, this one maybe not, those kinds of things, as well as the cases we've already got planned to do. But I feel alive. I feel alive. And I loved this little three-parter, The Widower. If you haven't watched it, don't worry. We're going to walk you through it. You don't need to have watched it, but it is a trip. This guy, Thomas Randolph, is really, he's something else. And I can't wait to get all into it. But of course, for those who don't know, if you haven't watched it, it is, of course, the story of a scammer, a classic gentleman who wants to take advantage of women. Now he takes it to an extreme level, which we will get into, obviously. But we were talking earlier because, as you all know, we like to start each episode with a personal story, just a personal touch we like to put on there. And we were thinking of different scams and things that we'd gone through together, but the road kept coming back.
Yeah.
To our personal stories of men who had scammed us.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get serious. And I feel like we rarely get serious on this show. But bringing it back, we did this episode of True Crime Daily. If you haven't listened or watched that yet, check it out with host Anna Garcia. It was we were very nervous because
Oh my God.
that's real true crime. Like, that's the true crime big leagues. They have like real true crime people. We're like, oh, we get drunk and play and have fun. And then it was like, oh my gosh, like we're doing this thing that's extremely serious.
Yeah.
And so on there, I did go onto a bit of a rant about, of course, men who don't necessarily portray themselves in a truthful manner. This one gentleman in one of the cases we were discussing had a very long history of domestic violence charges. And of course, the question being, the woman that he ended up murdering, did she know? Did she not know? Should there be more safeguards in place? Those are the kinds of things we were talking about. And not that the ways that we have been scammed are as extreme, because we're both still alive. Obviously. I do think it is important, though, to talk about these things, because I do think that there is obviously, people watch these shows and hear these stories and think like, oh, wow, well, that woman must have been so stupid. And I think that you all, if you've been listening to us for a while, know us well enough to know that we're not stupid. We may be drunk, but we're not dumb. But I think it's important to share stories that show that, first of all, there's no shame if you have found yourself in one of those situations, and also that it can happen to anybody, and I think that it's a cautionary tale, and I think it's important, and it can happen in non-heterosexual relationships too, don't get me wrong, but obviously the ones we had been talking about were specifically heterosexual. So anyway, I mean, when I was going through the long list of my, past experiences, I was like, what's the shining turd at the top of the pile?
Oh, yeah.
She knows.
Yeah.
She knows exactly where I'm going. And it made me think about, there was this one relationship I was in, and I thought it was a great relationship. And, seemed to be hitting it off pretty well for a pretty long period of time. And we had been together over a year. It was, he had been talking about marriage. He had been talking about all these kinds of things with me. And then he needed to get a new car, or a new to him car. Okay. So he was looking for a used car. And there was this new app that was only on iPhones, and he had an Android. So I was like, oh, you can use my phone and download the app and do whatever. And so he did, fine. And then when he gave me my phone back, he realized that he had to link his email to the app. And then he was like, oh, I left my email open on there. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll close it. And then he got really mad and very snappy and was like, you got to close it right now. But yelling. I don't like to yell. And I literally said, you're too angry about this. I'm going to go through your email now. And I scrolled, and the first folder I found was a woman's name. So I click on it, as one does.
Yeah.
And that's when I found hundreds and hundreds of emails between him and this other person, in which he outlined the real reasons he was with me, which were, well, my apartment was closer to his job, and I'm a famous person, which he thought was, quote, a good look for him. And while he didn't love me, he thought that, these were good enough reasons to be with me. And that was it's a real trip, because it really, and that I think maybe that's why I'm so fascinated by this case, is because it's amazing how well people can lie to you and how they can really make you believe that they are something that they're not, and then it was in this moment where I was like, wait a minute, like, is this true? And he was like, yeah. I was like, what? Like, how that just feels like it would take so much day-to-day effort and energy, like carrying on a lie. It's wild. So again, to me, I share that, one, because you got to laugh. You got to laugh so you don't cry. And two, because it is to say that it really can happen to anybody. It does not matter who you are. It really is. No one is impenetrable from a true lying narcissist, whatever you want to call them, psychopath, sociopath, just a general scumbag. I think you're right. I think scumbag is a nice kind of label in that situation. So
yeah. I mean, do we have a particularly mean nickname that you and I call him anytime we've mentioned him? Of course we do.
Sure we do.
Are we going to share it here? No. But the point is, I just know at some point in his fingers crossed short life, at some point he is going to have that moment of clarity and be like, son of a bitch, I had hit the jackpot. How could I have fucked it up that badly? And it's like, well, it didn't seem to take you much, but you found the way.
True, but I don't know that true people like this think about things in those terms, because I don't think that someone who thinks about things in those terms would actually have that revelation, because I don't think that it's a huge grift to spend a year with somebody that you were not interested in. I mean, that's insane, some would say.
Yeah. I mean, I still just want to full punch him in the throat.
Now that, yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Again, you're right. This happens to everybody. Everybody that's
really can.
It only happens to it happens to other people, or it happens to somebody's friend that I know that did, it's like, but it could happen to anybody. You just have to just watch for the signs. We're not saying go through their email.
No,
just watch for the signs.
I'm not saying that, but what I am saying is always trust your gut, because there was times throughout, and I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty, but there was times throughout that something inside of me was like, this isn't right. And then of course, when I verbalized that, it was like, you're crazy. That's not true. I was right. I was right the whole time. You know what I mean? Like, trust your gut. And people told me this my entire life growing up. My mother always, trust your gut. It's the best advice you could have ever given. If only I had followed it. yes, we're not saying this to try and scare anyone, especially our younger listeners,
No.
but as a cautionary tale, I think that sometimes with cases like this one, the widower we're going to talk about, people may look at these women and go, "Oh, they were desperate or they were stupid or they were whatever." And listen, again, I think all of you know me well enough to know that I am none of those things, and it still happened to me. So, you know, again, it's just it's more to try and just show that we need to think about these women, I think, in a kinder way, in a more compassionate way, because it's happens to again. I hate to, it can happen to you. This reminds me of that episode of Reno 911 with Carrie Kenny, who is the very, very best, and it's stuck with me forever. And she was holding a session for a classroom of kids, and she was like, "I don't care who you are, I don't care where you're from. Eventually, every single person in this room will get raped." And it was one. It was one of those like, but which is obviously I'm not making fun of that happening to people, but what the joke was to me was when you get those scared straight speakers that are like, "Oh my gosh," like it's
Yeah.
just like the people that want to terrify you. That's not what we're trying to do. We're just trying to,
No.
share our own lives.
No,
Okay.
yeah.
Get vulnerable, get to know each other. I'm pouring another drink. What about
Yeah.
you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, you commented, you were like, some people are going to look at these women and be like, they were desperate. And you know what? I was. This was
Also fair. Also
yeah,
fair.
yeah. This would have been like 15 to 20 years ago. So I was just practically a baby. No, I wasn't. I was on my way to elderly already. So we know Blanche loves the opposite sex. We know that. But Blanche also really had a hard time finding one that was gonna stick around, And I found one that I was like, okay, he seems really nice. He seems to treat me well. This is going. He calls me all the time. We talk for hours. This is great. And then all of a sudden, like a few months down the road, it's like, oh, you know what? He needs to go to another province to take this training course. And he really wants to do this because he wants to advance his career. But oh, God, he doesn't have money. And it's like, well, you know what? I don't really have money either. But I can get a credit card and get an advance on it.
Ah, see, that's your heart.
Yeah.
That's your big old heart.
Because I want someone to follow their dreams.
Oh God, I want to slit his throat.
So I gave him money, and if that wasn't enough, it was like, well, he's going to this place. He needs like new clothes for it. So I went and like bought him almost a new wardrobe and anything he could possibly need to go there. And, suddenly like a month or so after he's gone, like the phone calls are suddenly a little bit less. And then trying to track him down is harder to do. And before I know it, suddenly I'm like, God, when is the last time? Like you kind of have that moment of like, I feel like I'm calling all the time. Mm-hmm. I'm going to have them be the one who comes to me. And then you're just like, when is the last time that we spoke? Because I feel it's been a while. And at one point he had his mother call me to like thank me for help, like loaning him the money to go and do this course. She was going to guarantee he was going to give me my money back. She was just so thankful, whatever. So then at some point he finishes the course and he goes home, which is another province. And so he gives me his number at his mom's house. We talk a little bit and then I don't hear anything for a while. And then I find out from a friend of mine that they slept together.
I forgot that part.
Yep. And I don't know if she's listening, but I'm still angry. And I mean, it seemed, I get to everybody on the outside. It was like, who knows what this relationship's going to be. They don't even get to see each other very often. But I was like, you know what? This could be it. I didn't know for sure, but I was like, he seems to like me. I'm fully invested because you get in, you get all in. And yeah. So then I start calling him and was like, okay, so I've heard this. And the reaction from him was like, yeah, okay, so that happened. And it was, oh, I can't believe she told you. And I'm like, yeah, she did. And then it turned into me like starting to call his mom's house and being like, so remember all that money? I'd kind of like to start seeing some of that back. And it started with her being like, of course, of course. And then suddenly turned into, okay, how did you get this number? As though I hadn't been calling off and on. And I'm like, well, actually, he gave it to me. And so it was very clear at that point that he had told her he had paid me back and I was just looking for more, which could not be further from the truth. But the point is, to this day, he still owes me the money. Obviously, I'm never going to see it. I hope he dies alone.
do too.
I mean, and he had cheated also with other people, it turns out, but not just a friend of mine, but other women as well. So not just the one. So just when you think you couldn't feel shittier about yourself, it could happen to anyone. So this is that like Nicolas Cage rom-com, it could happen to you, but a dark version where you don't want it to happen to you. So just listen to your gut. And
always.
To all the scammers out there, fuck you.
We're on to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe that's why we started this, to take them all down.
Oh, I like that. Well, the other thing too is that they'll always be caught. Now, of course, the case we're about to talk about is it's very upsetting and sad that he didn't get caught until it was too late. But in the low level scamming that you and I are talking about, they always get caught. You just always do. I've never heard of anybody successfully scamming someone for forever. I mean, maybe. I mean, maybe I would have been. Who knows how far it could have gone? Isn't that wild to think about too? Like, how sick?
Yeah. I mean, speaking of sick, I've already like been thinking in the last 2 seconds, God, I hope both of them die mysteriously and it goes unsolved and we refuse to look into it.
That's how we really get them. If you get murdered, we will not cover your case on the show.
Nope.
Take that.
Yeah. We're not going to help it get solved.
Nope. You're on your own.
Nope.
What a laugh. But again, we share, we therapy, we heal.
Yeah.
Maybe we should start putting that on shirts. We share, we therapy, we heal. True Crime and Cocktails?
Yeah. I don't see why not. I mean, at some point we're going to have like trust your gut.
Trust your gut. It feels.
Trust your gut. He's probably a scumbag. That's a bumper sticker, I think. Right.
That's pretty good. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, I think that's, well, again, putting it in the hopper, the hopper along with that. Don't be a chucklehead. Buckle up instead.
I'm still pissed at myself. This was a week ago now. And it's like, I get that it's better when it's organic and it just kind of comes out. But if I had added the word just, the syllables would have been perfect. Don't be a chucklehead. Just buckle up instead.
The t-shirts haven't gone to print yet. So guess what? we can make it whatever. You know what I'm saying?
I'm just saying, people, if it has the word just in it, just remember, it's just better that way.
It's better that way. And if you're wondering what that's from, it's from our Princess Diana episode of the show, which if you haven't listened to, go back. All right. Now that we've talked about our own relationship to scamming, I feel like we're all getting closer, which is what I like. Because normally we wait until later to do the therapy of the episode, but we went right into it and I think it's nice.
Oh, I'm sure that therapy's coming too.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
It always is. It's right under the surface at all times. But, and I also just want to say very quickly, I think really, again, like it's really also indicative and to remember when we're talking about these women, especially the ones that have passed, when we talk about, what happened to Christy here, I mean, really someone just taking advantage of being very kind-hearted and good-natured, and ultimately I think it is the same for me at the end of the day, as well as, the fact that I'm on television, which whatever. Anyway, but I think it really is important to remember that the reason why he targeted these women was because they were kind and they were big-hearted and they were, women who are open-hearted, looking for love and willing to give it. And that is part of, again, what makes Thomas Randolph such a monster, which I can't wait to talk about. So let's get into it. So, in 2008, Sharon Randolph dies in what appears to be a home invasion. But when police start to investigate, it seems that Sharon's husband, Thomas, not only knew the intruder, but also may have hired him. Police then discovered that Thomas had previously been married 5 times and that 3 of those wives had also died under mysterious circumstances. So, what really happened to Sharon Randolph? And just how many murders has Thomas Randolph orchestrated? I was really proud of that newscaster read.
It was amazing. And you know
Thank
what?
you.
The whole time I was just like, you know what? I'm coming into my own about writing those.
You're
little
getting very
synopses,
good. You're getting
know?
very good. Yeah.
You wouldn't think it would take a lot, but also like the little blurb that goes in where you look at what the info is when you're on like a podcast
Yeah.
place, writing those, you wouldn't think that that would be a thing, but it's like, yeah. The first few times it was very harrowing. I know
Sure.
harrowing doesn't seem like the right word, but it was. The point is, I've grown.
I think we've all grown
That's what
over
we're
over
doing
the
here.
past 25 episodes.
We're doing some good work. Are you sure it's not 125? Because it feels like so
1,000.
much more.
I know, so many. All right, so let's get into it. Thomas Randolph
Yeah.
is, of course, the perpetrator we're talking about. He is the, I guess you could say, protagonist of the episode, even though what a terrible, terrible human. And so he, yes, as Christy and I alluded to there, he has been married 6 times, but it was the death of his 6th wife, Sharon, that is the one that kind of got him the attention and led to him, of course, being caught and then questioned for many, many things. So let's get into it. Let's get
Yeah.
into to Sharon's death.
Well, first, I just want to say this whole case gives me full "So I Married an Axe Murderer" vibe.
Oh, sure.
You know, where there's multiple spouses, suspicious deaths, someone who just keeps remarrying even after all these deaths happen. I wouldn't be surprised if there was an article about this in the Weekly World News.
Yeah.
8th highest circulation in the world. Again.
And for those of youngins who have no idea what we're talking about, So I Married an Axe Murderer is a fabulous, very dark comedy starring a very
Yes.
young Mike Myers before he really broke out. So we watched
Yeah.
it recently, my boyfriend and I, and it gives.
It holds up.
It does.
I
It really
think it
does.
is so well done. And it turns out I watched it a lot when I was younger because I can quote most of it, which I wasn't expecting to. I love his mother. She's one of my favorite
yeah.
things
Very funny.
in the world. So Thomas William Randolph Jr., born February 2nd, 1955. He goes by Thomas, Tom, and Tommy, but I don't want to feel really familiar with him, so I'm going to call him Thomas throughout this.
Yeah.
So, between 1975 and 2006, Thomas married 6 different women and had mistresses throughout 4 of those marriages. People who knew him describe him as smug, a braggart, arrogant smartass, sick son of a bitch, evil, smooth talker, show off, monster, flagrant philanderer, reputed drug dealer, self-proclaimed narcissist. He has also been given the nicknames Black Widower and the Joe Exotic of true crime.
Yeah.
He's fascinated with the movie Scarface to the point where he'd demand that people call him Tony after the lead character. What is with dudes in Scarface?
They love it.
Yeah,
Not
they
all
love it.
dudes, but you know, there's a type.
Yeah. Overall, he's just a disgusting human being. I'm grossed out by the mere sight of him. So the only photo of him that I'm going to post on any of our socials as part of this case is the worst photo of him that I could find. I went looking for the most obnoxious one. His face just makes me want to barf. So I found it makes me laugh every time I see it because it is so pathetic. So I can't wait for everyone to see that and be like, oh my God, that guy. And it's like, yeah, I purposely chose that. So Thomas said, quote, "I've done a lot of things I shouldn't have done. I'm not no saint. That
Not
hurts.
no wordsmith either.
Yeah. It hurts on multiple levels. Let's discuss how far from a saint he really is. Yeah, I was a reach.
I liked it.
So, May 8th, 2008, Thomas Randolph calls 911 to say that he shot an intruder in his Las Vegas home. Thomas claimed that after taking his wife Sharon out to dinner, they returned home where Sharon was shot and killed by a masked man. A scuffle ensued, during which Thomas shot the man multiple times. But when the police interviewed Thomas about the events, his story doesn't add up. Enter Detective Dean O'Kelly. Now, if this was a movie, he would be played by Steve Carell. And I stand by that. He has a very strong, maybe not Steve Carell, he has a very strong Michael Scott vibe. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what it is. So Detective O'Kelly looks into Thomas's background and finds out that he'd been married 5 times and that 3 of those women have died. So we're gonna start right back at the beginning. We're gonna go chronologically and meet these women. We got wife number 1, Catherine. So August 2nd, 1975, Thomas marries Catherine Ann Knight in Utah. Catherine was just 18 years old at the time and about 3 to 4 months pregnant. For the record, I am not giving any shade on getting married when you're pregnant. I got married between my first and second kids. So if there is like an out of wedlock club, I'm a member.
Certainly.
There's
Certainly.
no shade.
No.
You do things in the order that happen in life. So
sure. Yeah.
I just wanted people to know that I was not like, So the Randolphs welcomed a son, Justice Joseph, on February 18th, 1976. Thomas said, quote, "Justice is my gift to the world. I picked Kathy because I knew she'd make beautiful babies."
I can't.
It's not right. It's not right. So Catherine said Thomas didn't hold a steady job for too long. He did a lot of drugs. He sold drugs. He was controlling, manipulative, and later became violent and mentally abusive. Despite the rocky marriage, they had a second child, a daughter named Krista Brooke, April 13th, 1980, a child that Thomas said, quote, "I didn't plan her, but I planned justice." He did also say that Krista was really smart. So I guess that's something. I mean,
I have many thoughts about him and his attitudes and relationships to women, but we'll get to those.
Oh, there's something not right.
Right.
So Catherine would later learn from the police that Thomas took out an life insurance policy on her, and she was only 18 years old. So that feels like a red flag.
Yeah.
So Thomas started an affair with a young woman named Becky, which led to his divorce from Catherine. Thomas said, quote, "I'm an asshole. I cheated on her. Why? Because she didn't satisfy me." Now, folks, he's going to make you mad.
Yeah, it only gets worse. I'm not going to lie to you.
I'm
not going to lie to you. It only gets worse.
I will say, because I forgot to say it off the top, and it's somewhere. During my research for this, I did watch, obviously, the Dateline, but there's a podcast called Killer Genes, and their first 2 episodes, they had an exclusive interview with Thomas.
Wow.
They interviewed him from prison. He's a real character. And so I listened to that for the sake of hearing some things he had to say. I don't want to speak to him. I barely want to hear his voice. I can't stand the man.
He's someone who loves attention, loves the camera, all of the above. And I don't think I would have much interest personally, but I commend them for locking down that interview. That's awesome. Good for them.
Yeah.
For me also, I'd clam.
Yeah.
I'd clam. Like
No,
I like to do this at a distance. Do you know what I'm saying? I like to do this at a distance and then thank you. Like I'm fine over here in the corner. I don't want to physically get involved.
I would like to have police that we are very friendly with, where we could be like, I just have a couple of questions, hand them a paper, and then they report back with preferably a little little one of those little tape recorders.
Oh, you've really written a story about this.
Yeah, I want a cop friend. that's
Got
that's
it.
as close to the Force as I'm ever going to see, and I'm okay with that. I'm
Sure.
okay with that. So the day after, like literally the next day after Thomas and Catherine's divorce was finalized, Randolph married 25-year-old Rebecca Ray Galt, better known as Becky. So Becky was considered to be the life of the party. She was fun to be around. She was described as always happy with an infectious smile, but the marriage started to break down. So Thomas inevitably started to cheat on her, and Becky started to suffer from depression and drug abuse. She lost her license after a DUI conviction and eventually lost her job, which led to major financial troubles for the couple. At one point, they even had to move in with Thomas's parents as the power and utilities at their house had been shut off. So friends later said that Becky had planned to leave Thomas and move back home with the family in Roosevelt, Utah. Becky had secretly started calling Thomas's first wife, Catherine, looking for advice on how to deal with him.
Whoa.
And how to get out. And Catherine was basically like, you just got to leave it all and run and don't look back.
Wow.
Unfortunately, Becky did not get out on time. On November 7th, 1986, Becky's body was found tucked in a waterbed in the master bedroom of their Clearfield home. She'd been shot once in the head with a handgun, which was found in Becky's right hand. A suicide note was found on the kitchen counter. The coroner ruled her death to be self-inflicted. Yep. Now, a horrifying note, because I know everyone's here for my horrifying notes. The coroner believes that Becky was probably alive for about half an hour after that shot.
Oh,
I know.
And I just have to say a couple of quick things.
Please.
One, Becky's one of her family members in the documentary was talking about how she had revealed to her, I think it was her aunt, maybe, I can't remember, but that Thomas had insisted on having sex with other women in front of Becky.
Yep.
And that Becky went along with it. And then the chilling thing, the part for me of all of this, because he's horrifying throughout, and dear listeners, again, like Christy said, it's only going to get worse.
Mm-hmm.
But the worst moment for me, believe it or not, was when he was talking about Becky on the show, and he goes, "Oh, Becky." And they were like, "Why did you go for her?" And he's like, "Because she would do anything I told her to do." He goes, "If I told her to make dinner and when I got home to be in a clown suit, she'd say, 'What kind of clown suit? You want it to be a funny one or a sexy one?' That was just how she was. She would have done anything for me." And I was like, that is so sad and sick. Again, but again, speaks to the mind of this person, where it's like, what he's going after are not desperate people. They're people who want to please. They're people who have kind hearts. They're all of these things. That just made my heart break. It made my heart break. And also, one of her family members did also say about her drug use as well, that they do believe that he introduced her to the drugs. And as we know, he had a very long history with drugs. So that also seems possible. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah. So just 13 days after Becky's death, Thomas cashed in on her life insurance, which sources wildly vary as to how much he actually got. It ranges between $250,000 and $500,000, depending on what your source is. So either way, especially 1986 money, that's still a decent chunk.
And again, this was a policy that he had taken out on her.
Yep, it was. So something about Becky's death didn't sit well with police. Perhaps it was the fact that based on how the body and the gun were found, it was physically impossible for Becky to have pulled the trigger. Or maybe it was the fact that the crime scene was not sealed and Thomas had gone in after the fact to clean. Then a year after Becky's death, a witness named Eric Tarantino came forward to claim that Thomas Randolph asked Eric to kill his wife. Now I realize that that's really like a scandalous moment, but we're going to put a pin in that. So be scandalist for a while scandal is? It doesn't matter. Because we're gonna get back to him in a moment when the time is right.
Yeah.
So after a 2-year investigation, police finally arrest Thomas in November 1988 and charge him with first-degree murder and a third-degree felony of insurance fraud. At the trial, the prosecution claimed Becky's bouts of depression and previous drug problems led to her suicide, but friends and relatives said she was on the rebound from her problems. So her substance abuse counselor, Linda Layton, testified. She talked with Becky the day before, and despite some lapses, Becky had really turned her life around. She decided to take control of her life and leave Thomas. Linda claimed that Thomas would interfere with Becky's counseling by ridiculing her about it and supplying her with cocaine. Thomas was also known to be physically and mentally abusive towards Becky. So the person in question, the family member, that was Becky's aunt, Rosalie Allred, who said that there was a locked room in their basement where Thomas would make Becky watch him have sex with other women. There's no word on whether Thomas admits or denies this, but his quote was, "Becky was whatever I wanted her to be."
Ah, that's it.
Yep. Don't worry. Again, the quotes just keep getting slimier somehow. So Rosalie also claimed that she had given money to Thomas and Becky because, again, their power and everything had been turned off for several months. So they were having like real problems, and it was, of course, causing problems within their marriage. So her aunt lends them money. And the first thing Thomas does with that money is pay the insurance premiums on Becky's life insurance, which, again, Becky is like a young, relatively healthy woman. Why would that be your first thing instead of, I don't know, turning power on in your home, getting water back in, anything, anything like that. So the night before Becky's death, Thomas said they had a terrible fight, and he was sick of hearing her say she was going to kill herself. And he just told her she should just shut up and do it already. Oh. He even commented there's rope downstairs. She could use that. He claims that he then stormed out, went to a bar, ended up getting stopped by police on the way home and arrested for a DUI. Thomas then claims that after being released from jail the next morning, he drove to the old house, because remember, that house had no power, so they had been staying at his parents' house. He drove to the old house to get a tool that he needed to fix some damage that the tow truck had done to his car the night before. When he opened the garage, he noticed Becky's car, thought it was odd, headed inside, and immediately upstairs found Becky. Now, since the house had no power, and 1986, there's not really like cell phones all over the place, Thomas had no way of calling the police immediately. So he got in the car, drove to his parents' house to call 911. Now, I did a Google map. They're about 4 miles away, which is about like a 10-minute drive. You know who's closer than that? Any fucking neighbor.
A million phones.
Yeah. Just run next door, or across the street or anywhere. Like, it's just fascinating to me. He's like, well, I guess I have to go all the way home for that. And it's like, you don't. Okay. I have so many questions about this man, but I also am really excited for when we're done this and I can put him out of my brain, because I can't, I have to stop thinking about him. So now at this point, hopefully our listeners are like, oof, this Thomas doesn't feel like he's telling the truth. Well, welcome back, Eric Tarantino. So Eric claimed that Thomas had approached him, offering him $10,000 to kill Becky. Eric started doing odd jobs for Thomas, stuff around the house, just little things like collecting his drug money.
Oh boy.
Yep. So not only did Thomas cheat on Becky throughout their marriage, but he was also a drug dealer. Thomas kept pushing Eric to kill Becky, including multiple conversations where they would just whiteboard various ways that he could kill her and make it look like an accident. Here are some of those ways.
Yes, please.
Setting fire to the house,
Oh, God.
a car crash, knocking her out with chloroform and making the scene look as though Becky fell in the tub,
What?
a hunting accident, switching her medication, push her into a raging river,
Oh, my God.
or simply take her camping and then drive over the tent at the campsite.
Oh, my God.
So Eric claimed that Thomas was so nonchalant about the whole idea of Becky's murder that he used to go around singing a Rod Stewart song called Foolish Behavior. Lyrics from Foolish Behavior go as, or should I act quite cold and deliberate, or maybe blow out her brains with a bullet? They'll think suicide. They won't know who done it. I'm going to kill my wife. I'm really going to take her life.
Quick question. Are those the lyrics written by Rod Stewart?
Yep.
Are you
Actually,
serious?
I did not verify as to
Or
who
did he just
officially wrote
or did
the song.
my
but
question is those are in the song though? It wasn't just that Thomas like made those up like Weird Al, like he didn't just
I don't think I'd even say Thomas and Weird Al in the same breath. He doesn't deserve
well,
it.
First of all, my apologies to Weird Al. Second of all, this is why are people not talking about this song? What's the name of the song? I gotta Google this.
Foolish Behavior.
Because if that's real, like that's horrifying.
Please fact check me as we go, because
I'm so sorry.
No, I need you to, because if it turns out that those aren't the exact lyrics, then I'm gonna need.
I just need to know because I feel like oh my God.
Yeah. Again, I don't know if Rod Stewart specifically wrote it, but those, as far as I know, are actual lyrics in that song.
This is wild.
I mean, again, it was the 80s.
I'm really going to take her life. Blow her brains out with a bullet.
Yeah.
They'll think suicide. They won't know who done it. I think I'm over Rod Stewart. I was never
you were
Rod
ever
Stewart.
into him. Yeah. Well.
Wow.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know why that shocks me so much. Maybe I didn't realize just who Rod Stewart was all these years, but I'm not interested in that song.
Yeah. I never heard of it before until this. And I'm upset because I recently was reminded of that lovely song he did in the 90s. It starts off with bagpipes. It's like rhythm of your heart or something, maybe. Oh, fuck. I don't know. It doesn't matter. The point is,
I just love that for some reason I thought Rod Stewart was a squeaky clean, it's every mom's favorite. And now I'm like,
oh, that's Barry Manilow.
You're right. I guess. Yeah. Wow.
It's fine if you're not a Fanilow.
Well, I know someone in this call who is. I love it. Okay, sorry. Yeah. That just I don't know why, but I feel scandalized finding out this about Rod Stewart. Anyway, continue.
I like that we're already that, and we're only on page 5 of my notes.
I do too.
Only go up from here. No, it's gonna go down. So Eric started having this problem where he actually started to like Becky and just felt like he couldn't kill her. So he turned the job down. Well, Thomas did not take the news very well. Thomas beat Eric so severely that Eric suffered torn back muscles and an injured spleen.
Jesus.
Then Thomas put Eric in a car, drove him to Eric's wife's workplace, continued to beat him, and dumped him in the parking lot. Then went into Eric's wife's workplace and put the bloody gloves he'd been wearing on the counter as a reminder. Eric was hospitalized, and within hours of being released, Thomas showed up at Eric's house and beat him again, this time stealing Eric's medication and threatening to kill him if he had told anybody about this. Understandably spooked, Eric instead warned Becky about Thomas and left town, which is why it took him so long to come forward about Becky's death. Because it was like a year after it happened.
Right.
He needed some time because even to this day, he's still terrified of that man, and duly noted. I get
think
it.
if somebody repeatedly, that's justified. I just have to say very quickly,
Mhm.
I don't know why that when I was watching this, the fact that his last name was Tarantino, I don't know why I couldn't let that go. I was like, what
Yeah.
are the chances that there's like a brutal, weird murder slash scam case and there's a Tarantino name in it? I don't know. I just thought that was crazy.
It makes it feel more Hollywood.
Doesn't it?
It does. It adds
And then you see Eric Tarantino, and I'm like, you look like a character from a Tarantino movie.
Steve Buscemi would play him.
He would. In the film, he would. Okay, I like that we're casting this picture already. We got Steve Carell on the line for Dino Kelly, and we've already got Buscemi tapped to play Eric Tarantino. Yeah. Great.
God, I cannot ever say who I would cast as Thomas because I feel like it would be insulting, but
no,
I don't know.
Would have
I'll come to it. I'll come.
It would have to be one of those like Charlize Theron in the prosthetic makeups playing Aileen Wuornos. Like it would be.
You're right. You're right.
You'd have to do something to somebody. Do you know what I mean? You know who it could be? Oh God, now I'm going to sound elderly. What's his name? That's what I started to do. He's the guy. He's in everything. This isn't getting better. He was in. Every time I see him, I'm like, he's such a good actor, and I always forget his name. He was in I, Tonya. Is that helping?
I never saw it.
Damn it.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
I'm going to figure it out. Figure it out.
Okay.
I'll
keep going.
At some point in the next hour, I'm going to just shout at actor, and you're going to go, oh, yeah.
So now Thomas at this point did not want Eric to testify. So from prison, he orchestrated another hit, but this time on Eric. Thomas asked his cellmate to put him in contact with someone who could, quote, whack Eric. Police intervened and sent in an undercover cop. So when Thomas's new girlfriend, because he's got a new girlfriend already, 30-year-old Wendy Moore arrived at the drop to exchange money and a car title for taking care of Eric Tarantino. Wendy was arrested for conspiracy to commit murder. After a 5-day trial, the jury deliberates in under 5 hours and somehow come back with a not guilty verdict.
That blew my mind when I was watching it. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Okay. Yeah.
He was also acquitted of the second degree felony of insurance fraud, even though he admitted that in the 2 years since Becky's death, he hadn't worked at all and had instead used her life insurance money to buy 2 houses and a Porsche. In the end, Thomas was acquitted of Becky's murder. However, there was still the charge of conspiracy to commit murder. Don't get your hopes up, because this isn't going to be a fair thing that happens, because Thomas was offered a plea deal.
Of course he was.
If he agreed to plead guilty to a reduced charge of witness tampering, the DA would drop an additional drug charge they had against him, as well as the conspiracy charge they had against his girlfriend, Wendy. So Thomas was sentenced to 5 years in jail and fined $1,000. Again, not for anything he did to Becky, not for the insurance money, specifically for setting somebody up to kill Eric Tarantino. So if that wasn't shitty enough, Thomas's first sentence was lowered from 5 years to 3 years. And after less than 2 years, his prison sentence was stayed, and he was sent to a halfway house for 2 months before he could be released. While he was there, he had to go through drug and alcohol counseling. He was also supposed to be intensely monitored after he left. So all while this bullshit's going on, Thomas had a background working as an investigator for a law firm. He hoped one day to become a lawyer himself. He sued the 9 police officers and attorneys who prosecuted him, seeking compensation, claiming that the officials responsible for his arrest prosecution and sentencing had been grossly negligent. It was a $2.7 million complaint, but it was dismissed, and the city ended up agreeing to settle with a $2,500 check.
Isn't that disgusting, though, that he made money off of Becky's death, not only through the insurance claim, but through the trial? Now, granted, I understand he probably broke even or whatever, but you know what I'm saying? Like, the principle is that it's like he got charged with her murder and he made money. He got paid. Isn't that disgusting?
Yeah.
Also, Sam Rockwell.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I don't think he was in I, Tanya. I just looked it up, not listed. But he's a chameleon, man. I feel like he can play anything.
100%. Yeah. Yeah, he is solid.
Right?
Put him on the list.
And then the other person I came up with also in Vice, the movie Vice, Christian Bale. He's a chameleon too. He likes to,
He would love that.
Right?
He would really. Oh shit.
I'm gonna have to get them both to read for the part, I think. She's drunk with power, folks. Well, she's drunk with Shandon. That's the truth.
I mean, are you gonna play one of the wives?
I'd have to. But which one? Well, I guess the one. Well, no, because you could age me up. We'll have to keep going and we'll decide by the end.
I like where this is going. Look, folks, whatever helps us get through this.
No, I know who. I know I could play. I could play the district attorney, the female lawyer.
Yep.
Because we can go back and forth in time.
Yeah.
I don't know how much more of this I should be saying because I think we're really on to something here. Who bought the rights to this story to make it into a movie? I got to make some calls.
Again, we're not making light of this. This is how we get through it.
We have to. There's a lot of terrible things happening, kids.
100%. So city settled the lawsuit. A judge once said of Thomas, quote, "A victim of the system and forced to tamper with a witness to protect himself." So now officially my faith in the American justice system is gone. Just gone.
Mine's been tenuous for years, but yes, absolutely.
I get it. Now we're on to wife number 3. Her name is Leona. I am going to say this. Depending on the documentary or the other podcast or the article that you read about this, they change the order of the wives. They don't know who came when. And every time Leona is mentioned, it's simply his third wife was Leona Stapleton. Not much is known about her. All we know is at some point later on, she died of cancer.
Right.
That's the only thing anywhere. Except for at True Crime and Cocktails.
Yes! I knew it. Oh, I can't wait. Oh, yes, that pile of paper.
Yeah. So I'm very excited. So also I like when you give me a case that has 6 wives, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do my best to find all of these wives. I'm going to try and find all of their marriage licenses. I'm going to try and find the obituaries for where I can. I have been making myself sick trying to find some of this. I was up till 4:30 last night, set an alarm for 9 this morning so I could get right back to it. It's been a real week. So, I also love that I wrote in my notes about how people say not much is known about her. That's it. I'll be honest. Finding anything about her was difficult, but not impossible.
Yeah. Yes. That's what we like.
Yeah. So, Leona Teresa was born in Guam, May 23rd, 1961, to Juan and Josefa Baza. Her father passed away in October 1968, and her mother married an American officer named Dale Crawford while he was stationed at an army base in Guam. After the marriage, Leona's last name changed to Crawford. At some point, And unfortunately, I have looked and cannot find it. But Leona married a man with the last name Potter. They had 3 children: Christina in 1981, Daniel in 1983, and Cynthia in 1984. At some point, they divorced. Then, March 21st, 1994, 32-year-old Leona Potter married Thomas Randolph in Nevada. This is where they get you, folks. They went to another state, which is why it was very difficult to find. The marriage was short-lived. They battled with landlords over overdue rent at one point. They fought against each other in small claims court, and then they ended up getting divorced. Thomas said that Leona, quote, forgets to come home on time sometimes, which feels like really controlling and creepy to me. So the reason, also one thing I find fascinating is while they were married, she had 3 children.
Right.
So she had the children with her when they were married.
Right. And if she had custody.
It never came up at all. They were super close with their mom.
That's interesting.
So it's just, I find it fascinating. So Leona Randolph went on to marry Bradley Stapleton, September 26, 1996, before divorcing in 2001. So now at this point, she's officially Leona Stapleton. The reason she was so hard to find is because Leona Stapleton then married Kurt Keller, January 2nd, 2004. She did sadly die from cancer March 19th, 2006, but she was hard to find because she was Leona Keller at her death. So everybody being like, he married Leona Stapleton. Technically, he married Leona Potter.
Right.
And she became Stapleton after him. But anyway, she was a homemaker who enjoyed fishing. She had 2 grandsons. And a few years after her death, her son Daniel named his own daughter Leona.
Oh.
So I think that's very lovely.
That's nice.
I'm just really proud that I found anything about her. And how did it start, folks? How did it start? A quick screen grab when they were showing, they were going through stuff that belonged to Thomas at the house. And he had licenses from his ex-wives. One of them said Leona Potter. And I was like, isn't that interesting? And that sent me down the rabbit hole. This was also not one site. This was like her obituary that I finally found after realizing she had changed her name 2-3 times after they got married. This was like, I had to find very specific things. So while that may not seem like a lot of information, it was a lot more than you're getting anywhere else. I'll tell you. No,
it's very impressive because you're right. In the documentary, it was like, Leona, she died of cancer. Moving on. There was literally no context, no information, nothing. And also, great point to bring up. Why did he have a stack of his ex-wife's licenses? Ex-wives. Isn't that weird? And also kudos to you because that's what Christy brings to the game. She's screenshotting things like licenses to zoom in on to see if there's anything there. And that's what led you to all this info. And I love you for it.
There was also a moment where they showed, because they show you, they think they show it very quickly, and they do until you screenshot it. And they tend to blur some stuff out, but they had like a marriage certificate application. And I took that, and it'll come up later in my notes. But the point is, she never stops. And it was also so much to get that. The point is, I'm bragging about it. I'm bragging.
You should. I think that it's very, very warranted.
So are we ready to move on to wife number 4?
Let's do it. Let's round it out.
Now, this wife, thankfully for her, she is still alive. Not so luckily for me, she's the one that keeps me up at night. Now, hers is the only marriage license I cannot find.
Interesting.
However, I did find their court documents for getting divorced.
Okay, so that's proof that they were legally married.
I do know for sure that they were married. I'm not 100% sure on the date. I cannot find when Thomas and Leona divorced, but I know it had to be before that.
Right.
Based on the timeline. Now, people, sometimes they say that the wife number 4 is actually wife number 3. Sometimes they put her as wife number 5. Like, they're kind of all over the place. So I'm like, you know what? I found specific, like, actual legit marriage license or marriage dissolution documents. So I have the exact time he was with all of these women. So I have the exact way it should go. And so I made this super beautiful little graph. It was a timeline. Everybody was color coded. It could show you exactly the order he was with everybody. And then I went to print it and it wouldn't print properly. And the background was black. So when my black and white printer came out, you couldn't even see the graph. So I got really upset. But what do you do when you get upset, folks? You get out markers.
Oh my God. It's a giant Bristol board. She's done this by hand. Oh, this is rich.
So I'm going to do my best.
This is amazing. Okay. She's got a timeline here. I'm going to walk you through this. We'll do this together for the people who are listening, not watching. Okay.
So 1975 to 1983, he's with Catherine.
Yep.
1983 to 1986, he's with Becky.
Yep.
Then between 89 and 91, that bastard was in jail. So he was with, I don't know, some cellmate, I'm sure.
And his hand.
Yep.
Thank you. Why, Lauren? Why?
You're painting a picture.
I'm painting something.
So then in 94, I found the exact date that he married Leona. That's about the most I know.
Okay.
Then in 96, I found the exact date that he divorced wife number 4, which means they had to come in this order because that's just how facts work, people.
Now, is there a reason why you keep calling her wife number 4 instead of her name Gaina?
Because I haven't officially dropped her name yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. Damn it. I'm so sorry.
It wasn't a surprise. Anybody who's seen it knows.
I didn't know if you were being sneaky or what.
No,
why did I ruin it?
No, I was gonna get in there at some point, but the point is, yes, you're right. Wife number 4 is Gaina.
No, look, we can cut this out. So just keep going. I didn't say anything. Keep going.
No, it's perfect. And then for the sake of later, wife number 5, Frances, he was with from 97 to 2004. And then Sharon, he was with from 2006 to her death in 2008.
Right.
This is comically large because I had a very large Bristol board and some time.
I like it.
So that's where we're at, folks. I also love that I felt the need to almost Freddie Mercury my mic stand to make that work. I have a lot of rum in my system right now.
It's good.
So at some point in 1995, again, couldn't find the marriage license, but I found them divorcing. So I know that they legally married. Thomas marries 44-year-old Gaynor Kathleen Allman. She also goes by the name Gaina. They meet through an ad in a newspaper and marry 3 months later.
Oh, boy.
Within a month of their marriage, would you believe Thomas takes out life insurance on her?
Oh.
Early on, Thomas gets arrested in some sort of bar fight. And when Gaina's talking to someone at the police department that she knew, she asked them to look into his background. They told her about Becky's death and Thomas's arrest. She knew none of this. So not long after that, Thomas is sitting at the dining room table, cleaning his gun when it went off. Gaina was standing about 3 feet away from him. The bullet lodged into the floor about a foot away from her. Thomas claimed he didn't know the gun was loaded. After what she was told about Thomas's past, Gaina was rightfully freaked out. So one day when Thomas headed to work, Gaina just packed her shit and ran. And I'm convinced that's why she's still alive. Looking back on their relationship, Thomas said he cheated on Gaina to the point where he asked her to leave so he could have sex with his new girlfriend.
Oh my God, he's a psycho, man. He calls himself
so
a narcissist,
gross.
and he's right. Like, I like to put on my my psychologist hat, my FBI profiler hat. And I gotta say, like, he is a true narcissist because again, and he also knows he is, he talks about it. And that is, I mean, that's a level of narcissism that is really something. You know what? I just want to say very quickly, good on Gaina. She did a background check. Now, granted, they were already married at the time, which is unfortunate, but good on her. Good on her. I think that it's inquiring minds want to know. And he got into a bar fight. She was obviously rattled by this. She's saying, who did I marry? And I commend her. And listen, I know that it's like, that's a tough thing. And I know that love blinds us and all of the above. But I think, again, she trusted her gut. And listen, I agree with you. I think that that's part of the reason she got herself out of there and that she's still alive, and good on her.
100%.
Not that I would think less of her if she had very tragically been killed by him. I want to make that clear, but I'm just saying that it's like, thank goodness is my point, that she got out. She was one of the lucky ones. My God.
Yeah. And Gaina, if you're listening, God, she's not going to pick an episode that's got her in it. But if you're listening, the point what we're saying is the reason you're alive right now is because of what you did. Like, you saved your own life.
Yeah.
Is essentially what it is.
Because she also had the instinct to pick up and leave, which, as we know from wife number one, Catherine, she said to Becky, you got to just pick up and go. You got to leave everything. You just got to run from this guy. And Gaina obviously also had that instinct, followed it. And again, thank goodness. My God.
Yeah. Do you want to get into wife number 5, or do you want to take a break before we get into wife number 5?
I want to get into the bathroom real quick. So let's take a quick break. Refresh your drinks, have a tinkle, and we'll be right back to hear about wife 5 and wife 6 as we continue to discuss the Dateline 3-parter, The Widower, here on True Crime and Cocktails, Famous Fatalities Edition. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Welcome back to this episode of True Crime and Cocktails, Famous Fatalities Edition. Of course, we are discussing the Dateline 3-parter, The Widower. We're talking, of course, about Thomas Randolph. Oh, what a tangled web he wove. Before the break, we got to his 4th of his 6 wives. We also discussed my wanting to cast him in a movie. I've suggested Sam Rockwell, who I think is a chameleon, Christian Bale, who we know would transform himself for the part, and now I'm throwing a wild card into the mix. What about Jeremy Strong? Are you familiar with him? He was in Succession. He's in everything.
I have not seen Succession yet.
Well,
it is on my list.
He's in lots of other things too. He was in that movie, The Judge, with Robert Downey Jr.
I don't have a lot of time for cinema.
Talking about prior to the cast, prior to the podcast's existence. My point being is that I
can't use it as my excuse. I got it.
No. I guess what I'm saying is that I have 3 strong actors. You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, I Googled him.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But again, good actor. Again, I think he loses himself in a role. So I have 3 guys that I'm ready to put offers out to, is my point. I'd like to see them read if they're willing to read for it. I hope they're not offer only, and we'll see where this goes.
I'd like to be on that Zoom call.
Hi, Mr. Bale. I actually had a dream about Christian Bale last night. We're getting completely off the rails here, but anyway, it was nice. Okay, so let's get back into it. Let's get back into Thomas Randolph's 5th wife, of course, Frances. Oh, another heartbreaker. I mean, they're all sad, but this one, I know you'll get to it, but there's buckle up, listeners, buckle up.
So, Thomas meets Frances Louise Gaskins. He wants to marry her immediately, but he has to wait for her to be divorced first.
Right.
So once the paperwork is filed on July 31st, 1997, the couple marries August 2nd, 1997, a whopping 6 months after they met. I would like to also use this moment to point out that he lied to her pretty much immediately based on how the marriage license was filled out, according to my other screen grab that I took while watching. On it claims that he divorced in June of 97. unless there is somehow another wife, which I cannot find. I desperately kind of wanted to find one. Between Gaina and Francis, he was off by a year. And he also wrote that he'd only had 3 marriages up to that point when he'd had 4. So I found that really interesting as well. Although the whole thing looked like it was all in her handwriting, and then he just signed it at the bottom. So I have a feeling that she just like asked him and he told her, and she put whatever she needed, whatever he told her. So again, he's the monster here. So
He is.
we'll just focus on that. So at the time, Frances had a 7-year-old daughter named Rachel with her that she had with her on again, off again ex-husband, Jesse Gaskins. They married in 1972, divorced, and then married again in 1992, and then divorced so that she could marry Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
Frances was described as the sweetest person you would ever meet. During this time in 1999, Thomas went through legal proceedings to have his record expunged so that no one doing a background check could see that he was once charged for the murder of Becky Randolph.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm. Now, Frances had a heart condition. It was some issue to do with a valve, and while she could live without it getting fixed, Thomas pressured her to have surgery to replace a valve in April 2004. After the surgery, Frances's daughter Rachel said that her mom was doing fine, and Thomas asked Rachel to give them some time alone. Less than 45 minutes later, Frances was dead. I did see one report that claimed that Thomas had Frances's blood on him at that point, and that he claimed it came from when he tried to revive her, you know, in a hospital, surrounded by people who are trained to revive people. But I couldn't find a secondary source that would back that up. So
Right.
I'm just saying it so people are like, uh-oh, she missed that. And it's like, she didn't.
Of course.
The sass that she's coming out with. So the doctor asked about an autopsy. Thomas declined. So the fact that she seemed to just like, I feel, how is it not a policy when someone dies in your hospital, regardless, right away, whether the family wants you to or not, automatically autopsy? How is that not a thing?
I know.
Yeah.
I know. But I know.
So Thomas declines the autopsy, and somehow the death was ruled not suspicious. He had her cremated within 24 hours, and her ashes were given to her family members in pill bottles.
Oh my God.
He also told her sisters that Frances died on the operating table.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. When questioned about Frances's death, Thomas says, quote, "I didn't give her heart disease, her mother did."
Oh, good Lord.
Yep. And wouldn't you know, Thomas had life insurance policies out on Frances. Not only that, but after she died, Thomas sued the hospital for wrongful death and won. No amount has ever been said, but they said an undisclosed settlement was reached, and I've seen it described as, quote, a hefty sum of money. After Frances...
It's interesting. Very quickly, I'm curious about that court case. I feel like, I'm wondering if the defense, the lawyers for the hospital said, like, this man would not let us do an autopsy, and then he sued us for wrongful death. Like, isn't that kind of a problem? Like, isn't that like a conflict of interest here? Because you would think that if somebody thought that their partner died under suspicious circumstances, that they would, of course, be like, yes, run an autopsy. But the fact that he was like, absolutely not, and cremated her, and then was like, wrongful death suit. I mean, just saying.
Yeah. Look, this never stops being maddening involving him and the law. I'll tell you.
Yeah, because he also seems to be really fucking good at it. He is, whether you like it or not.
Yeah. I mean, I hate to even say this. He goes on all the time with being like, I'm really smart. And it's like, he is. I would go
He
so
is.
far as to say conniving more than anything.
Yeah.
But he worked as an investigator for the lawyers who helped him get acquitted in Becky's case. So he worked as an investigator. His plan all along was to become a lawyer, but
Right.
then he kind of had some drug problems and drug arrests, and that kind of went out the window. And then when he was in jail, he was taking classes, like to try like different law classes. So
Well, and that
he's
leads me
done his
to
research.
he has. And again, well, and lots of narcissists are extremely intelligent. That's not abnormal. Now, I don't know if you were going to mention the videotape at all.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'll stop getting ahead of myself. I'm just excited.
No, what I like is that we're on the same page. And what I like is that when you get really close and we talk about it, I mean, it's my favorite place to be.
It's like it's like they can't hear us for a second. I'm like, are you going to talk? Okay.
My favorite place to be. Just to be clear, the time that I am able to see you in person next, I just might not let you go.
Yep.
So
Yep.
just know that.
We'll triple mask, if this isn't over, we'll triple mask. It'll be great.
Yeah.
We'll hold our breath. It's just,
it's just how it is.
We'll hug until we pass out.
We should do this on a couch.
It would probably be for the best. A padded room. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I'm also very excited to know that now I feel like we have to film it. Like I feel we have to let the people see this happen.
Yeah. I feel like we would be doing a disservice if we didn't document that.
Yeah. So, well, buckle up for when that happens, folks.
Yep, absolutely.
So after Frances's death, her family looked at the video will that Frances had made in 2001. In it, Thomas can be heard coaching Frances on what to say, and she says she wants everything left to Thomas because it's pretty much his to begin with. She wants him to raise her daughter, which, well, spoiler alert, he didn't. So there's also that. And thank God for that.
Yes.
I will try and post a clip. I don't know if it's legal. I just did like a screen record kind of situation to post it just so people can like see the brief moment of Frances being very sweet and being like, I love you so much. I hope you never have to see this because, I just want to be with you forever. And he's like, what do you want done with your body?
I know.
Like instead
so
of
awful.
actually responding to her. So he's just such a fucking gross individual. He really riles me.
Yeah.
And now that I'm like at least a cocktail deep, I'm going to be further riled as we go.
Take those gloves off. Okay. All right. Some people call it panty remover. We call it glove remover. You know what I mean? I'm also a little bit intoxicated.
This is right where we need to be.
Feels good.
Yeah.
Feels good.
So Rachel's daughter later said that Thomas wouldn't even allow her to attend her mother's funeral. At the time, Rachel was 14 years old.
I can't.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That poor girl. Poor girl. Her entire fucking life destroyed by this guy. Now, again,
he doesn't care. And he doesn't because
I know that
only thinks of himself.
Of course. And I know that there's no proof that he killed Frances, but it does feel like, considering he has the history that he has, considering he has from that point, the future that he has, I do feel like it would not shock me at all if he had smothered Frances or if he had done who knows what during those 45 minutes in the hospital, because it does feel like quite a great, easy story to go. Just had a surgery. She's got these, chronic health conditions. Oops. She just died.
Yeah.
That stuff does happen. It's,
If we're getting real already, I have seen people who wondered if he poisoned her because after she came out of surgery, at one point, suddenly she was blind in one eye. And her chest was so swollen they couldn't actually like stitch it together, and like there were a lot of problems that people wondered.
If he poisoned her leading up to the surgery?
And at the hospital to like finish it off.
Oh.
He was the only one in the room when she died.
And then she died. Yeah. I mean, again, like, I know that we're not supposed to, but all signs point to if I consult my magic 8 ball, you know what I'm saying? Okay. Moving on. Yes.
Now, folks, we are at wife number 6, Sharon.
We're right back where we started. That teaser that she beautifully gave at the beginning, we're right back there, and I love it.
Yeah. So now this is where we are. This is where I start getting flashbacks to the Unsolved Mysteries episode 13 Minutes. You got a victim who's a single mother who worked as a hairdresser. Granted, Sharon was retired at the time, with a husband who is creepy as hell.
Yep.
Said
Absolutely.
things that raised red flags and probably had something to do with her murder.
You're right. Maybe that's part of why I liked this case so much, because it, I was also fascinated by 13 Minutes. Yeah.
You were a fan.
Yeah.
So Sharon was born in New York in November 1950. She married William Metcalf in 1970 and had a daughter named Colleen. Colleen is in the episode if you watch it. Then in 1979, Sharon marries Philip. I tried finding someone pronouncing this, but didn't. I'm going to go with Coase. Do we say Causse?
Cause.
I like the stamp you put on that when you said that.
Strong and wrong, baby. Who knows?
Yeah, I like it. Going confident. We're teaching all over the place in this. So she remained married to Philip until his death in June 2005. Within months of Philip's death, Sharon meets Thomas Randolph on Match.com. He told her his jobs ranged from special education teacher to truck driver to carpenter. Less than a year later, in early 2006, Sharon and Thomas go on a cruise and get married in Mexico. A year later, on March 3rd, 2007, they renew their vows in Vegas. They say renew their vows. Christy says he makes sure it's legal.
Great point, because some weddings that happen in other countries, you think that it's legal, and then you end up finding out later that it's not. Cue the Hills, Heidi and Spencer, they got married in Mexico, but then it turned out that it wasn't real. I love that I know that, but that is
Are they still
great.
together?
They still are.
We watched a movie the other day and Heidi showed up and I screamed her name and my husband was like, I don't know who that is. I'm like, oh, never mind.
Listen, I could talk about that forever too, because I was fascinated by that show. Yeah. But I will just say that great point that you're making. Yes, I think you're right. I think that he did that absolutely to make sure that they were married.
100%. So none of Sharon's friends liked Thomas, especially Alice Wolf, who says, quote, he looks like a woman. Thus making Alice my favorite character in this story. Nothing would piss a guy like that off more than being called feminine in any way. So
he does have oddly feminine features as he aged.
100%.
As younger pictures, okay, but as he aged, it is interesting. It is interesting that it's funny. Anyway, continue.
So on May 8th, 2008, Thomas takes Sharon out to an early Mother's Day dinner. And while they plan to go to a movie, Thomas claims that Sharon preferred to go home and have sex with him. So they skipped the movie, hit a gas station, and headed home at 8:26 p.m. Yes, Thomas is super gross and constantly bragging that women are obsessed with him. Also, it was said that Sharon was a film fanatic and that she went to the theater as often as she could, which makes me wonder, did she change the plans to go home early? Or did Thomas change the plans to go home early? Mm-hmm.
Well, also like he's a known manipulator. It could have been that they had these absolute plans to go to this movie, and then over dinner he starts playing footsie under the table or whatever his flirting technique was. You know what I mean, though? And then it's like, hey, do you want to go to the movie or do you want to go home? Like, and then she chose it, quote unquote. And then so he's like, well, she chose it. And it's like, well, come on.
I will also, I mean, I know we have the little E for explicit on our podcast, but
we do.
Heads up, folks, there's going to be quotes that I end up saying in here that are his words, not mine, and they are not words that I use. So not excited about it, but brace yourselves, y'all, is what I'm saying.
Yes.
So when the Randolphs get home, Mark Bartlett, a neighbor across the street, is outside working on his car and talking on his phone. He hears gunshots, and thanks to phone records, police can narrow down the gunshots to 8:33 p.m. However, the 911 call isn't made until 8:45 p.m. Why did it take him 12 minutes to call 911? He claims the phone was dead and that he had to find Sharon's cell phone and that he called the line, but it was busy. So he just kept redialing until someone answered.
Just like he had to drive to his parents' house when he found Becky's body to make the 911 call.
Anything to delay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the white rum as opposed to the white Christy. White Christy, you may remember from the Tupac episode.
God, so white. So white. We love her for it.
Yeah, she is who she is. So the 911 call, it was not easy to find. I found a small chunk of it, and I'm going to do my best to post it in our virtual case file for sure. I will try and put it on Instagram, but if I can't put it on Instagram, truecrimeandcocktails.com to find our virtual case file. But if I can put it on Instagram at True Crime and Cocktails. So the 911 call, it was weird to hear a 911 call and not, like, you have to physically try and not laugh at it the entire way through. The dispatcher had to ask Thomas 12 to 15 times to help Sharon. Instead, he just kept asking about the intruder. At one point, when the dispatcher asks Thomas to put Sharon flat on her back, Thomas responded, quote, "I hope that he's dead. Should I try and get the gun or something so he doesn't try and shoot me if he's not dead?" So the dispatcher asks, "Is the intruder moving?" Thomas says no. And spoiler alert, of course the intruder isn't moving because Thomas shot him twice in the head. But we'll get more into that in a moment. So at this point, the dispatcher feels very exasperated and goes, "Okay, fine. Get the gun, but quickly focus on your wife." Thomas says, quote, "I'm going to lock the garage so he can't get in." So I'm going to point out two things. One, yes, I know, dear listeners, I did change how I said garage. I know I say it weird. There's a Simpsons episode about it. It's not the point.
Listen, I say Costa Rica weird.
Well,
and one of our listeners pointed that out too. Yeah. And the truth is that I grew up, one of my best friends growing up was from there, and that's how she said it. And I don't know if it's regional, I don't know what, but I just have always said it that way. I understand that it is Costa Rica. I get that. But anyway, we're also from Canada. Sometimes we say things weird.
Well, and the thing is, I don't take it in a negative way at all because I will flip back and forth between garage and garage.
Sure.
I get it. But there is a Simpsons episode where somebody is like, "I have to go to the garage." And Mo, the bartender, is like, "Oh, garage, la-di-da, Mr. Frenchman." And they're like, "What do you call it?" And he's like, "The carport," like in a really thick accent. And it's amazing. And my husband and I reference that all the time. But the point is, I know about garage, and I'm going to say garage a lot in the next few minutes, and sometimes I might say garage without even meaning to.
I like it.
So not only that, I have already gone completely off. I said there were two things.
Sorry,
Nope, this was
I
me.
derailed you.
Nope, this was me. The point is, he was like, you know what? Oh, there was my second point. My second point, if I go into my home and I see my spouse, my partner, in the end of the hall, not moving, bloody, I'm going to run to him. I'm going to scream as much as I can scream. I'm going to call 911. And the entire time, even if I saw an intruder that I was like, that person shot, there is not even going to be a second where I'm going to think, oh my God, what if they come back? What if they shoot me? I should protect myself. I'm going to be like, someone help my fucking husband. That is going to be my only concern. So the fact that he is like, oh, but what about me? What about this? It's like, okay.
Well, and also, it may be my instinct. Yeah, in the moment, who knows what to say what you would do, but like he also did shoot the person and he knows he shot the person. So like it doesn't hold water for me either, that it's like, why are you throwing on this big show that it's like, I've got to deal with the intruder. Like, it's like, we get it. There's been an intruder, apparently. Like,
yeah. Well, I'm glad that you said the big show, because he then starts shouting, "Oh God, Sharon! Oh fuck!" followed by just a lot of screaming and full wailing, and then the sound of him grunting as he's trying to move her to her back, like it's a very strained, like over the top. And I'm saying it was like Meryl Streep level performance. If Meryl was bad, because we all know she's not. We all know Meryl Streep is a fucking queen.
She's a gem. Also, I've seen the photos. Sharon was not that big a lady. And if the adrenaline is pumping through you, that you will be able to turn the body over. It's not like they're asking you to be able to pick the person up over your shoulder and move them. They're telling you to turn a body over. I don't buy that would be a strenuous thing at all.
No, they asked him to move his wife, not a car. So he was fine.
No way. Yeah. No way. I don't buy that at all.
Yeah. So I like that we're already feeling very sketchy about this, because guess who else did? The police.
Yes, they did. They sure did.
Right away, detectives were finding inconsistencies in Thomas's story. When they first arrive on the scene, Thomas told police they had got home from having dinner. He let Sharon out in the driveway, and then Thomas said he, quote, lingered in the garage. I love that I tried to do garage and garage at the same time. I'm getting in my head about it. And then he entered the home. He saw Sharon lying on the floor, and he saw a masked man. Thomas then claimed that he struggled to get the gun away from the intruder and that he succeeded shooting the masked man. However, when police interviewed him later on, Thomas instead says he saw the masked intruder, grabbed a gun of his own, and started shooting. On the 911 call, Thomas said he heard a gunshot. But when he talked to the police, Thomas said he didn't hear anything because he's deaf and wears hearing aids.
Oh my God.
And then at one point during the 911 call, Thomas even said of the intruder, I know him. He's ripped me off. He's tried to rip me off, saying that he totally knew who this was the whole time. Now, during the police interview, keep in mind, his wife has just died.
Yeah.
Thomas asked the detective, is your wife good looking? Detective says, what do you think? To which Thomas says, to kill for.
It's chilling. It feels like a movie character. Like there's so many moments with him in this thing that it feels just like scripted.
What we're going to do is we're going to give Christian Bale my folder of notes.
Look, I'm just saying, I wanted to just think about the role. You know what I'm saying? He'd be great. Too intense.
He would get so into it. His wife would fear him for a while.
You know what though? I think Thomas Randolph has to die before we can pursue it, because I don't want him getting the like narcissist excitement that a movie would be made of him with a star playing him. So we got to put this also on ice until he dies. As soon as he's dead, I'm getting those rights. We make the movie as soon as he's passed. You know what I'm saying?
I'd also just like him to die.
Well, I mean, terrible human.
Look, he's a pile of garbage, and I can't stand the way he treats women. I can't stand what he's put these women through, and the fact that he's just such a cocky son of a bitch. But we'll get to cocky son of a bitch yet.
Of course.
So yep. Just okay. I was like, I'm ahead of my notes. No, Christy, you're drunk. So a week after the shooting, Thomas beats police at the house to do a walkthrough video where he's supposed to show them exactly what happened that night. It's clear at this point that Thomas is pretty high throughout the video, as his speech is really slurred. And at one point, he can't really keep his eyes open. So that got weird. During the walkthrough, Thomas told police that they were going to see a movie, but decided to come home early because Sharon wanted to have sex. Quote, I'm so sorry. After dinner, she was going to wash her pussy so I could fuck her. Again, he is a giant piece of shit. When later questioned about his language, Thomas said, that's just how I talk.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. No respect for women. Yeah, we get it.
Yeah.
So Thomas claims he repeatedly shot at the intruder in the hallway. However, only a single bullet casing was found in the hallway, so most shots actually occurred in the garage. All bullets and shell casings were accounted for, and all but one were found in the garage. So I was shooting at him in the hall. It's like, well, were you? Because there was only one casing. So clearly you shot him once in the hall and then the rest of the time in the garage, if I may. So the intruder in question was 38-year-old Michael James Miller from Charlotte, North Carolina. Apparently, Michael and Thomas had met at a 7-Eleven a few months before, and Thomas was paying Michael $600 a week to be a handyman around their house. In the 6 to 8 week period leading up to Sharon's murder, Thomas and Michael exchanged 303 phone calls, most of which were initiated by Thomas. Michael's family said that Thomas would call dozens of times a day looking for Michael, and that he always wanted to go out and shoot guns in the desert, even though Michael had shown zero interest in it. Michael's family thought the relationship was very odd and just assumed that Thomas was gay and coming on really strong.
Oh, dear.
Mm-hmm. A longtime friend of Michael's named Judy Archie told police that Michael had said that Thomas said, quote, he told me he wanted me to kill his wife. On the night of Sharon's murder, Thomas told police that the intruder was wearing a black ski mask, so Thomas couldn't recognize him. However, police suggest it was more likely that Michael was wearing a black ball cap that he was known for wearing, which was found at the scene and is in the crime scene photos, which I will post. A black ski mask was also found at the scene, approximately 2 feet away from Michael's body. I just don't know how hard you can shoot someone to have a ski mask fly right off their head. You know what I mean?
Well, also, was there bullet holes in the ski mask?
That's the other thing. There was little DNA on the mask, no blood, no bullet holes, no hair in the mask. Michael was shot twice in the head. So it feels kind of impossible he could have been wearing a ski mask and that Thomas claimed he didn't know who this person was. Michael was shot 5 times, including the 2 shots to the head, which kind of, to me, feels more execution than defending yourself at that point.
Also, on the 911 call,
yeah,
said
He
I know
said,
him.
I know him.
So that's another,
Yeah.
you know.
Also, at one point, uh, I believe it comes up during the trial. Inside the mask, they found like a plastic piece that you're supposed to pull when you like one of those little like plastic things that is inside like a tag kind of
Like a
situation.
security thing.
And it was inside at like the spot where his nose would have been. So nobody would have worn it. So it's obvious he bought it and then just threw it at the side and was like, look, he was wearing it. It's like, oh,
Right.
you're an idiot. So police find out that Thomas had taken out 4 different life insurance policies on Sharon, and he stood to gain $360,000. A week before Sharon died, Thomas received a letter responding to an inquiry that he had made about his wife's life insurance policy. He also had a will of Sharon's that stated he was the sole beneficiary. However, enter my favorite person, Alice. Just months before Sharon died, she secretly had a new will done and notarized and given to Alice for safekeeping. In the new will, Sharon's daughter Colleen was the sole beneficiary. I could not love this more. I love that Sharon thought enough of like, something doesn't feel right, I'm going to do this. But I'm also incredibly sad that she was like, something doesn't feel right, I need to do this behind his back.
Trust your gut.
Which again, though, kudos to you, Sharon, for
Yes.
doing that.
Absolutely.
You deserved more.
She did.
All of these women deserve more.
Oh, absolutely.
So when Thomas found out about the new will, he was enraged, which again, I love. Anything that doesn't go according to his plan, I am here for it. So after looking into Thomas's background and finding numerous dead ex-wives, the police built a case against him. And on January 7th, 2009, police arrested Thomas at his mother's house in Clearfield, Utah. And when police asked him to show his hands, he refused and said, I'm disabled, which doesn't really seem true. It just seems like he's like, I'm a feeble old man. There's nothing, but it's like, oh God, you're fine. But he resists arrest and gets tasered.
Well, and they had
feel joy about it.
I know they have this footage in the Dateline if you haven't seen it. And what I'll say is this is that he does keep his one hand behind the door hidden. And they keep saying, you've got to show us your hands. You've got to show us your hands. Obviously, they know that this man has guns. They know that he has, one of his wife's, Gaina will remember one of his guns while cleaning it went off, apparently. They know this. They know that he has this history of guns. They know that he's shot Michael Miller at this point and killed him, quote, in self-defense. Whether that is or is not the truth, again, I mean, I'm not, defending police brutality or anything like that, but I do feel like he did get tased because, again, he did refuse to comply with what they were asking. So it is a quite shocking moment in the documentary anyway.
I mean, yes, I also know I'm coming down really hard on him, but was there a slight joy in my heart to see him laying tased in the snow? A little bit. There is something about his law background that makes me feel like he was purposely doing this so he could go back later and be like, look at this. I'm a disabled old man. I told them that, and they still tased me. And it's like, but even in that footage, they repeatedly told you, we need to see your hands. And he was like, but I can't stand on my own. I had to hold on to something. And it's like, then why are you walking around court without holding anything? Anyhow.
He also could have steadied himself with his hand that was shown. His left hand, he could have held onto the door frame, and he could have revealed his right hand like in front of his face. There are ways that you can show that you are not holding a gun in that moment if you still need to steady yourself. So it's bullshit, but agree.
Correct. Again, I mean, I just hate this guy so much. Yeah. For what he's done, for what he's gotten away with, all of it. So I am a little warm and I'm a little shits are not being given.
I love it.
And also, I think my favorite person in the documentary tased him.
Oh, is it your favorite person or is it Blanche's favorite person?
Let's say I'm on the lanai because Blanche has arrived. I didn't catch his name. I call him by the nickname Sunglasses, which,
ladies and gentlemen, we have to take a quick pause because what you don't know and what Christy doesn't know is that for the duration of this episode, I have been playing a little game. And the little game is that in this sealed envelope, okay, this is a sealed envelope I have in my hand. I wrote down the name of the person I thought that Blanche would respond to the most in this documentary. And I am going to now open this envelope.
this is some Johnny Carson level shit that I'm here for.
And he doesn't say his name, I don't believe, in the documentary. So what I wrote down was the guy who arrested Thomas who said, "My safety is paramount."
Yep.
Am I right?
You're damn right.
Yes.
Can we play this every week? Because I'd like that a lot.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I will send you a box of envelopes. How do you like that, people? I didn't say envelope. Envelopes.
Beautiful. But yes, I did. I knew it. When I was watching, I was like, if she responds to anybody, it's going to be that one.
He has an energy.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was like the power of being tased, like that he wielded a taser that I'm like, that I'm like back to, I could be a mobster's wife, like the power.
Sure.
Now I'm back to wanting fries.
Yeah, I don't know if I got the quote exactly correct, but he does say,
"You're right. You're right." I think because he was definitely in the car. He was just like, "Sir, I have to keep myself safe." And it's like, "Yes, you do."
Yeah. And he was basically, for those of you who haven't watched it, Thomas is in the back seat handcuffed, and this gentleman is driving, saying, "Do you understand why we had to tase you?" The answer is because you refuse to show your hands. And then he says something along the lines of, "My safety is paramount," or paramount might not be the right word, but it was basically that. It was like, my safety is important, basically, is what he was saying. And I just love that my Johnny Carson game paid off. So thank you.
I liked it a lot. And I like, I really hope we continue to play this because there's gotta be at least one, you would think. But he is absolutely on Blanche's roster.
Thank you very much.
So also the moment that Thomas got tased was the moment I was like, yeah, this right here is why I couldn't be a cop or a lawyer or a judge. Because I had already made up my mind about him. I felt immediately that he was guilty, and I didn't mind seeing him kiss a taser. He didn't get tased in the face, but I wouldn't have hated
You know what? I'll be honest too, because they were very rough with him. So I know that some people may have a negative reaction to that, which I completely understand. But I think also when you're watching the story about him and how he mistreated so many women at that point, I will not lie. I was kind of like, okay, you know what I mean? Like, you're kind of just like, because he's gone, at this point, he's gone through his entire life making money off of these women's deaths. Let's not forget, off of Becky's death, he made money. Off of France's death, he made money. It's, again, so I feel like in that moment, I was like, it didn't like disturb me watching him get a little, get roughed up a little. But I know that says more about me than anything else. Yeah, whatever.
I mean, again, we might get comments or letters.
You're gonna get letters, but you know what?
I get it. But at the same time, this is a guy who does everything deliberately.
Yes.
So he has a purpose for everything he does, and it's always a terrible purpose. So he gets tasered, gets put in a car. He is charged with conspiracy to commit murder and murder with a deadly weapon. 3 weeks later, Thomas says, quote, "It's not a big deal. I'd be cheated if they didn't charge me with the death penalty." Again, just cannot stand him. Then he sits in jail for more than 8 years before the trial starts. Every time the trial is set to start, he fires his lawyer. Over the course of 12 years, he went through 17 lawyers. Now, this is going to surprise you. This wasn't like an, oh, yeah, this was an, oh, okay. I liked one of his lawyers.
Which lawyer?
I had to look him up. I believe his name is Gabriel Grasso. He's an older gentleman, like a silver fox. And his interview on the show, he's wearing a very crisp, tight blue suit. I'm a sucker for a blue suit.
Damn it! I did not have him in an envelope. I failed.
He had the. Oh no, you had 50% of who I had on my list. So
all right,
I think you did great, and I hope it just encourages us to continue playing this game. There was just something about him where I was like, I was attracted to his intelligence.
He was very dignified. I will say this.
Dignified, yes.
He was. Yeah. Very quickly, though, one of the lawyers, I believe it was maybe his second lawyer. I'm so sorry. I should have written stuff down. And also, I've had some to drink. But he was talking. He was like kind of like the real fast talker guy. He was like, I'm friends with the DA. They got no problem with me. We razz each other. No problem. And I was like, they probably hate this guy. Yeah. But my favorite moments of his was when he was like, don't make me be a snake. Don't make me make my snake moves. Snake moves is something we've been saying around this house ever since. Don't make me make my snake moves. I love. And then, my other favorite bit was when he was like, reason I became a lawyer was because I got into a bar fight and I did kill a man. And, my lawyer got me out of that. And that made me realize I wanted to dedicate my life to this. And I was like, Jesus Christ. Yeah. I can't believe that. And I mean, the way he described the story, it was like, I got into a bar fight. I basically broke a bottle and like stabbed a guy. It sliced his carotid artery or whatever. And he died. And I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. Cause it sounds to me like, depending on who started the fight, sounds like manslaughter, but I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I did think about looking into him and going through his background and like doing a bit of a check there. But then I was like, he was his lawyer for a brief time and then he got fired. So I was like,
very
okay, brief. But he is a really fun part of that story. And I'm going to say like a Paul Giamatti.
Oh, totally Paul Giamatti.
Situation. Although, can I put one in? Although, I mean, in this story, Gabriel Grasso is not going to be probably in our story, but Stanley Tucci.
You really have a thing for Stanley Tucci.
I do. I really, he's a dignified gentleman.
He's on the list. I've written him down.
He is on the list.
Well, listen, let's get back to it. Bring out some of your snake moves. Let's see them.
God, I hope he has not made it so that we can't use that line because I love that line very much. I am just realizing now I was trying to say copyright and my brain is just, oh God, buckle up for this last bit.
Because we're doing great.
She's not great.
It should also be noted that it came out in the documentary that he was basically, they're speculating that him constantly changing lawyers was also a way of him buying time, was that he was basically trying to like obstruct justice at the end of the day. Cause he was just like, oh, my lawyer's unfit. Oh, I need a new one, et cetera, et cetera. So it also wasn't innocent that he was like changing lawyers completely. It was to buy himself more time. So anyway, 100%. I digress.
Yeah. So Thomas gets arrested, January 2009. Opening arguments for his trial start in June 2017.
Wow.
We're going to talk witnesses in the trial. One of the names is going to be familiar. The others are going to be new ones for you.
Yep.
One witness came up, Stephen Thomas. He was a friend of Thomas's back in the day and happens to be married to Thomas's first wife, Catherine. When Thomas found out that Steve and Catherine were dating, he said, quote, "It's like stealing meat from another man's refrigerator."
And isn't that telling again that he views women as meat? Continue.
Yep. During the trial, Steve testified that Thomas had approached him several times, asking if he would kill someone, if he could get away with it. even outright asking if he would kill someone for $25,000. Similar to what happened in Becky's case with Eric Tarantino, when Steve said no, Thomas threatened to kill him, so Catherine and Steve moved to Washington to get away from him. Then we bring back our dear friend Eric Tarantino. So Steve Buscemi, now's the time that you want to focus up.
Yep.
Eric testified that Thomas had approached him about killing Becky. Then, if two guys potentially hired as hitmen wasn't enough, we've got a man named Glenn Morrison. Glenn claims that Thomas asked him if he'd like to make some quick money by shooting his wife. At the time, his wife was Frances. Glenn claimed that Thomas asked Glenn to stage it like a burglary, kill the woman, and shoot Thomas in the leg or rear end. Thomas said, quote, "I got insurance money to shoot her and shoot me in the leg." Thomas suggested that Glenn, nope. Yep. Glenn make it look like a burglar. There we go. Fuck. Here she goes. Okay. I thought I'd fucked up in my notes, but it turns out, nope. Sober Christy had drunk Christy's back. So Thomas suggested that Glenn make it look like a robbery, like he had forced Thomas to open the safe, shot the wife, and stole the car and left. Glenn turned Thomas down as he didn't trust that Thomas wouldn't double cross him. Thomas's only living ex-wives, Catherine and Gaina, also testified at the trial, saying that Thomas was manipulative and abusive. So I mean, the only people who said anything positive about him were his own children, and I'm shocked, but I feel like they just kind of felt like they had to.
And his brother.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And his brother claimed too that when they did that police walkthrough video, he was like, "I didn't think that Thomas should have had to do it that day. He was on painkillers or some shit." And it was like, okay, you sound to me like he's paying you off.
He's also just like a drug addict. It had nothing to do with being sad about his wife.
No.
Nobody gets 4 life insurance policies on their spouse if they're like not hoping that their spouse is going to die.
And you know what else is interesting? We know that he got life insurance policies on all of the wives except Leona. That's the only one that we've heard that there were no life insurance policies on. That's not to say that there wasn't, right?
It is possible that he could have, but yeah. I mean,
isn't
I don't.
it interesting?
If there is a life insurance adjuster out there who wants to give me 20 minutes with their computer, I'll look into some sort of true crime and cocktails shirt.
Yeah, we could. Yeah, if you get access to a top secret computer, we can make a shirt happen. That's no problem. But think about this. Kathy, life insurance policy, fled for her life. Becky, life insurance policy, dies. Gaina, life insurance policy, got shot at, fled for her life. Frances, life insurance policy, dies. Sharon, 4 life insurance policies, die. Isn't it interesting that Leona, the one that we hear so little about, it's like maybe he couldn't convince her to do one or he didn't do it. And then it was like, oh, well, I'm going to move on. Not worth my time because I don't want to be with you unless you have a life insurance policy. So then I can try and kill you to get the money.
That's a great point. And I mean, Sharon isn't the only one he had multiple on. There were other people he had, other wives that he had like 3 policies on. Because again, that's all he wanted. He sees these women as just, he uses them and all he wants is money. And I just hate him so much.
I know. So back to the trial. Okay, so we hear from all of these witnesses. What happens?
So 2017, the jury deliberated for 9 hours and found Thomas guilty of conspiring to murder Sharon and of the murder of Michael Miller. On the day of sentencing, when Thomas was able to make a statement to the jury, it's called an allocution.
Thank you very much.
Thomas showed up in court in a Dallas Cowboys jersey. He said, quote, "I wore it because I wanted to wear it, because I wanted to be comfortable." Once again, proving it's always about what he wants in life, you know?
Yep.
He then told the jury, quote, "I've lived a hell of a good life. I've been blessed. I'm sorry this all happened. We'll do one appeal. And if it doesn't work, give me that shot and I'll go meet Sharon and Becky and Francis. Mm-hmm. So the defense did not like that Becky's case was brought up in court. They claim that mentioning Becky's case gives jurors an unfair prejudice towards Thomas. But to me, it just felt like the Jim Carrey movie Liar Liar, where he asked for something to be inadmissible and the judge asks why, and he goes, because it's devastating to my case.
Yeah. And again, I know that arguably you could try the case with the, Eric Tarantino, Stephen Thomas, and Glenn Morrison all testifying that he had approached each one of them asking in different ways, would you be willing to do this? Again, the Glenn Morrison story being the most damning because again, it outlines the almost exact scenario that ended up happening with Michael Miller, including the double cross. So to me, it's like they probably could have still proven it without that. So it's an interesting call, right? Where it's like, I know that in the documentary, they talk about how they didn't think they had a case without the Becky case, but I'm like, it feels like maybe you did, but maybe they thought they needed that as well. But I also felt like, it's, I guess maybe that would have taken Eric Tarantino's testimony out of there. I see. So then they would have only had the two. I just feel like it should be admissible at the end of the day because it's the exact same scenario over again.
Yeah. I also think, again, this is why I couldn't be a juror. All I need to hear is like your statement on he had a life insurance policy on Catherine and she left. He had a life insurance policy on this person. He had one on this person. He's been living his life off of these insurance policies. And the idea of like his second wife, you don't want to bring up how she died or that he was charged with it. Sure. Just at least let them be like, oh yeah, there was a life insurance policy out on her. And within those 2 years, he lived off that money and bought a few houses and a Porsche. That in itself, especially when they were like in financial dire straits in that situation, didn't have power, all of those things. It's very telling that it was like, oh, I come into this money and I'm going to do something fun with it. It was obviously like he didn't give a shit about his wives, which is really gross.
Okay, so he's found guilty. He says one appeal. What happens in that appeal?
Well, December 2020, which is one of the most recent things I think we've ever said on here.
Yeah.
The Nevada Supreme Court overturned the double murder conviction. The court ruled the jury should not have been allowed to know that Thomas was also charged for the murder of his second wife, Becky. So this lying, manipulative asshole gets another trial. On the plus side, he currently is still at High Desert Prison in Nevada, where he has been since January 2009. And it's almost a comfort, but at the same time, it's just like, oh God, it's just still not enough somehow.
Yeah.
So I had some other quotes of Thomas's that I didn't find a place to put in my notes.
Yes, please.
But are gross. So
yeah, gross quotes.
Buckle up. We've got, some of them aren't gross. Some of them are just like, oh, well, I feel these all really paint a picture of who he is as a person.
Please.
Quote, I'm a cocky fucker. I'm a narcissist because I have a really high IQ. I love women. I love all women. I've slept with a gazillion women. Okay, what fucking adult uses a gazillion? Come on.
Stop.
When a camera showed up, he said, this is the Tommy show. During his trial, he said, I'm the victim in this. He said, I'll be acquitted. I told you that from day one. An interviewer said, hey, can you name all of your wives? He said, quote, want the names of my fiancés too? Constantly bragging. I hate a bragger. It drives me crazy. I just hate him so much. He said that Sharon was his perfect match because, quote, best sex of my life. It's why I didn't cheat on her. I didn't need to. I married them all right away because they wanted to. They loved me, and a lot of them didn't work out, which is the grossest fucking thing to say because a lot of them actually died. The relationship didn't just not work out, the women died. Quote, I'm the luckiest man in the world. Some people will go their whole lives without finding a woman or man that loves them, that will marry them and give them what they need. Or in my case, most of them didn't.
Jesus.
Mm-hmm. And then I believe I only have one more. During a prison interview, Thomas was told that after Becky's death in 1988, Becky's mother told reporters, quote, he's guilty and he's just going to kill somebody else's daughter, so beware. Thomas's response? He laughed and said, quote, maybe she's psychic. I honestly think that specific quote, more than anything, is what tells you everything you need to know about Thomas Randolph. He's so arrogant, and just the idea of him getting away with things because of that arrogance drives me crazy. The idea that one day he could be walking around, you can't tell me that within a year of being released, he wouldn't marry some poor woman.
Absolutely. But this is the thing again, he will just target somebody who hasn't seen the Dateline, who has no, if he got out, who has no concept of the case. Yeah, easily. He's an older gentleman now, so he'd go after an older woman and absolutely take advantage of somebody, again, someone kind-hearted, all of these amazing traits that we've listed before. Again, he's not going after people who are bad people. He's going after the best of the best. That's the thing. The people who are the kindest, the people who have the biggest hearts, the people who want to love the most. Those are the people you go after, because those are the people who want to, who want to believe that you're true and you're real. And it's disgusting.
Agreed. And you can't tell me that because he's an older guy now, I believe he's like 66 years old. You can't tell me that he's not going to suddenly move into a retirement community and start making his way through, smothering them at night, changing their pills out, something like that. And it's like, oh, this older woman died. Yeah, well, natural causes. You know what I mean? I just feel like he's going to find something, although I guess maybe their life insurance policies wouldn't be high enough for him. I don't know. The point is, I'm also grossed out when his kids are like, he is just a great dad and the best grandpa. And it's like, I would not let my children near him.
No, but was he though? Again, if I mean, listen, I don't know them. I can't speculate about them. But again, it's like, it felt to me when you were watching that footage on the documentary, it felt like when he was watching them testify, he was literally going through a checklist in his mind. That was the look on his face, was that it was like, they said everything. Okay, good. They earned their money. That's what it felt like to me, that it was or whatever, they did a good job. It just didn't feel to me
genuine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, let's not forget that when his first wife, who is the mother of those children, when she remarried and Thomas started threatening that guy, she took the kids and left. So who knows how much of their childhood he was actually in, where they're like, he was a great dad. Well, who knows?
Absolutely.
So
that's the other thing.
That could easily be just he asked them, it's up to you. You're the only people who are going to say something nice about me. And if you say enough nice things, they're not going to give me the death penalty. And I'm not saying he should have the death penalty. Let's just get used to saying life in prison with no option for parole regardless.
And he said at one point that he would prefer the death penalty because he didn't want to spend the rest of his life in prison. I remember that too. So that says to me, you know what? Then let's give him life in prison, because that sounds like it's his biggest nightmare. That sounds good to me. Now, the one thing that I have been of course, as everyone, if you've listened to this podcast before, you know, I'm always fascinated by the psychology of everything. So,
Yes.
my question is, what made this person like this? Was he born this way? Was there something that happened to him? What was his childhood like? And I feel like there's no real information out there about that. But the one piece to me that was the most telling was when he gets arrested by Blanche's crush and he's getting taken out of the house in his underwear in the snow.
Yeah.
It's his mother's house that he's getting taken from, and his
Yeah.
mother comes out, and it's this older woman, hair in curlers, has seen the weight of the world on her face, and is literally like, "Why are you taking him?" Like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it was just in that moment as I saw her like shuffling, bringing him his clothes or some clothes. Then I was like, what is that relationship? Because we all know, of course, that if a man has a super fucked up relationship with women, is super weird about women, if we've learned anything from Psycho, Bates Motel, but you know what I mean? All jokes aside, it's like it usually starts there. So
Mhm.
that's to me like, what part does she have in this? Because it's just interesting to me that he's described women as being like, it's like stealing a piece of meat from another man. The fact that he literally has shown again and again and again that women are nothing to him but a notch on the bedpost, but are opportunities for him to take out life insurance policies and cash in money. Like he's proven it. He said himself he's a
Yes.
classic narcissist. You know what I'm saying? Like to me, I just want to know what shaped that. And I think that the answer to that is in that mother. And again, I look forward to details about that because I think details about that will still come out.
Oh, they'd have to. I mean, I tried to find stuff about his childhood and it was nearly impossible.
No, I looked it up too, and there's like
Um,
nothing. There's nothing to be found.
I did there forgive me because I didn't feel like there would end up being time. There was a point in the Becky case where his mother said something about Becky came to the house looking for something. Oh, fuck. Sorry. I have to pause.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
And okay.
There was something, and forgive me because I'm not fully remembering what it was. Because I didn't think we'd have really any time to get to it.
Yeah.
Because I honestly thought we'd spend 2 hours being like, oh, he's so gross.
Well,
Oh,
we basically did.
oh yeah, I've come down hard on this man, and I don't feel bad about it.
Mm-mm.
I get innocent until proven guilty. Well, he was. So, yeah, there was something that came out in Becky's trial where Thomas's mother said that Becky came to the house the day before she died and that she was a very thin woman. So when the mother, Dorothy, had left the room, she could see when she came back that Becky had something underneath her coat that she was hiding. Dorothy assumed it was a pack of cigarettes. So then she's on the stand and they're like, is it possible? Like, it seemed, they were like, this is the gun. This is a gun with a holster. Is this what you saw? And she was like, well, no. And they were like, does this look like a box of cigarettes to you? And she said, well, at the time it did, to me anyway. To which, to me, I know that doesn't make much sense, but to me, that made me realize, so if they showed her a gun that they were like, is this what she took from your home? To me, that means that gun was owned by that family. The gun that she used to kill herself, supposedly, or the gun used in that event, was from that house.
Well, and then that makes you wonder, did she take it at that time or have it at that time? Or was this Dorothy saying that she did to cover for Thomas?
Dorothy did have a quote saying that I would walk to the gates of hell for my son if he needed me to.
Okay.
So
that's
she will say whatever is needed to get him
Well,
you
that's
know?
starting to paint a picture for me because that's starting to sound a little bit more than like, you know, obviously I know, listen, I would do anything for my animal children. So I get it, but like I'd walk to the gates of hell for anything for my son. Now we're starting to use terminology again. What was that childhood like? Was it, I thought perhaps she was abusive to him, but now it's sounding like, well, but maybe is that part of it? Was she abusive to him, but then also obsessed with him? Is that part of what helped kind of groom this little psycho narcissist? You know what I'm saying? I again like, did I recently Google what does it take to become an FBI profiler in case I wanted to switch occupations? Yes, I did. And the answer is it's too much schooling. I don't have time. But it's a dream. It's a dream.
I'm going to say it. It's the FBI's loss.
Well, I don't know if we said this on the show once before. We probably did, but my hope is that we can crack something so then maybe they'll give me like an honorary thing. You know what I mean? Like
Oh
maybe
my.
they'll ask our opinion on stuff. If we can crack one case, then maybe down the road they'll be like, well, call the
Well,
cocktails gals, you know?
first of all, the cocktails gals is my favorite thing. Second, my oldest did say to me the other day, he was like, so how's your podcast going? And I was like, it's going fine. Yeah, I don't know what to say. Again, still working on that New Year's resolution. So I'm like, I don't know. It's going great. And his reaction was, so you solve any cases yet? And I was very quick to say, I won't know until the police prove that I was right. So we may have solved multiple cases by now.
You know what? You're right. That's a great way of looking at it.
We just need the evidence to come in to prove that what we've said is right.
You're right.
I know.
Well, listen, what are your theories on this case? I mean, I don't even know if we need to go into them because I think all of our theories are he did it, he did it, he did it. Like, is there anything even else to talk about?
I mean, well, the police is pretty adamant that they believe that Thomas grooms his victims, grooms his accomplices, and that he either attempted to kill, hired someone to kill, or killed 5 of his wives. Like, which is pretty intense.
Yeah.
Police believe he married the women with full intention of killing them for insurance money, and that he groomed Michael Miller, took Sharon out to dinner as a ruse, and after Michael shot Sharon, Thomas ambushed Michael. Now, for me, I'm pretty on board with the police theory. And after Becky's death, when he claims that they fought and then he went to a bar and got arrested for a DUI, I can't help but wonder, did he do that on purpose? So it was like, look, I've got an alibi. I wasn't home. I don't know what you're talking about.
I thought the exact same thing.
And then with Gaina, once she had the background looked into in 1995, I wonder if that is what made him look into getting his record expunged in 1999. Because then he's like, I can't have another potential victim look into me like that and find something. So
absolutely,
I could see that. I think it's possible he smothered Frances with a pillow while they were alone. Essentially, I'm saying I think he either murdered his wives himself or had someone do it for him. He's been studying law enough to know any loopholes he could use to get himself out of trouble. I think he purposely delayed the trial for so many years because he assumed he'd be acquitted and eventually released. And then he could sue the police department and city for gross negligence. And I'm telling you right now, he's also going to he's going to sue them and be like, it was an injustice that I was in jail for so long before I saw a trial, even though it was his own fault because he kept pushing it. I guarantee that he's trying to set up a future lawsuit so that he can then make money off of this. So he has something to live on while he's waiting for his next victim. I guess in short, I think he's guilty. I think he's gross, and I find him unsettling.
Well, good news because same. Now,
Yep.
before we wrap things up, because we do have to wrap things up, you do have something on our chain of events here that you've sent me called Weird Story. And I want to know what that is before we wrap things up.
I can't believe no one else has ever brought this up
I
because
can't wait.
all it takes is for you. I guess you have to Google Thomas Randolph Jr. a lot. And then you hit this and you're like, wait, what? So run with me on this, people.
Can't wait.
July 2000, a Detroit lawyer named Thomas Randolph Jr. was arrested for the 1982 murder for hire of his wife, Sharon Randolph. Sharon, in this case, is spelt with 2 R's. Yeah, these are completely different people somehow. He did it for her $250,000 insurance policy. Thomas hired a drifter to stage a robbery where the drifter would attack Thomas and his wife when they left a restaurant. Thomas was struck in the head with a gun, whereas Sharon was shot in the head twice. Thomas later sued the owners of the strip mall where the incident occurred, saying that they failed to provide adequate lighting and security. The drifter's niece and nephew told police that Thomas hired their uncle to stage a mugging. The drifter also turned out to be a former student of Thomas's, perhaps someone you may groom, one would say. And in 2001, Thomas was finally convicted of first-degree murder of his wife's death from 1982. So I just want to point out, we've got a man named Thomas Randolph Jr., who wants to be, or in this case specifically is, a lawyer. We've got a wife and victim named Sharon Randolph. We've got a murder for hire with someone that the husband has groomed. It was staged to look like a robbery. He sued someone who he blamed for the death, not unlike Thomas from our story, sued the hospital after Francis. And his motive was his wife's life insurance policies that he had recently taken out on her. And again, these are different people. This is actually a young, like, African-American couple, believe it or not.
This is synchronicity again. This is like the Elisa Lam case when we were talking about those synchronicities. That's wild.
Yeah. I look into, like, I got to a point of Googling Thomas Randolph Jr. enough that I got so far down that I'm like, he was convicted. I'm like, this is weird. And I clicked on it and I'm like, 1982. I'm like, he had another wife named Sharon. And then I realized it's a completely different person, but almost exactly the same. And they didn't,
so weird.
They didn't catch him until 2000.
And doesn't that make you wonder if at some point along the way, our Thomas, the widower Thomas, Googled his own name, found that, you know what I mean? Not that that would inspire him to do it, because I feel like he was already doing it at that point, but like,
Yeah.
I wonder if he has ever come across that, because my gut says he probably has.
I was curious if that's what gave him the idea in the first place. But I mean, this Thomas didn't get caught until 2000. But it totally seems something he would do is Google his own name.
Absolutely. Listen, Christy Oxborough, thank you so much for looking into this one. This was really my personal choice, my personal request. And you knocked it out of the park. I so appreciate you and all the work you did. Kudos to all of it. Do you want to tell the people about next week?
I mean, I do, but there's a part of me that's like, I know we don't have the budget for song lyrics because I don't know if I can say it without singing it.
Well,
I mean, I'll do my best, but I'm going to be professional.
Here she goes.
On the next True Crime and Cocktails, Big Papa himself, Notorious B.I.G., Biggie Smalls. I love it when you call me Big Papa. Come on.
Biggie, Biggie, can't you see? True Crime and Cocktails is coming You see?
I mean, there was such a
Oh,
great
man.
there was such a great choice, a
It
great
fell
chance to
away.
put Christy in that.
Damn it.
I know.
Biggie, 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 can't you see? We're coming for you, Lauren and Christy. We're going to work on it.
Yeah. I
Normally
mean,
my improv songs are a lot better, but I'm also, this bottle is empty. And so anyway, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. We have had a lot of response to our Tupac episode. A lot of people asking us, are you going to do Biggie? And the answer is, heck yes, we are. We're doing it next week. Make sure you come back for that. Again, check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/True Crime and Cocktails, Instagram at True Crime and Cocktails, Facebook at True Crime and Cocktails, Twitter at Not Detectives. And listen, I don't know what else I have to say other than it's been such a joy. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. Christy, do you want to say goodnight to the people?
good night, people.
Good night, everybody.